You know that feeling when you get some really heavy news, like a serious medical diagnosis? It can feel like a door just slammed shut on life as you knew it. All of a sudden, the future feels, well, totally uncertain. And that word normal, it just kind of evaporates.
So let's really get into what that feels like. And we're going to do that through the eyes of someone who's literally just been there. Meet Maya. She's 15, and she was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And that quote, that was her very first thought. It just perfectly captures that gut punch of shock and fear, that feeling that everything has changed and it's never going back.
And look, that feeling, it's totally real. It's valid. A diagnosis like this is a huge deal. It is life-changing. But, and this is a really big but, life-changing does not mean life-ending. It means there's a new challenge, a new set of rules to learn for sure, but it is not the end of the life you love, not by a long shot.
You know, a huge chunk of that initial fear, where does it come from? Misinformation. It's all the stuff we've kind of picked up over the years, from friends, maybe something we saw in a movie, and a lot of it just isn't true. So separating those scary myths from what's actually medical reality, that's step number one. So what exactly was Maya so afraid of?
And these fears, they're so specific, right? But they're also super common. This idea that life is now just about restriction, no more birthday cake, no more treats. And then there's the other part, constant, painful shots. This is the story that a lot of us have in our heads about diabetes, but it's a story that is seriously outdated.
Okay, so what's really going on inside the body? To get to the reality, we got to understand the science for a second. Type 1 diabetes is what's called an autoimmune condition. In simple terms, the body's own defense system gets confused and accidentally attacks the cells that make insulin. Now, insulin is basically like a key. Its job is to unlock your body's cells to let sugar, glucose, get inside to be used for energy. Without that key, the sugar just gets stuck and builds up in your blood. So the whole goal of managing diabetes is just, well, giving your body that key from the outside. And this right here, this is the core of it. It's all about shifting how you see it. The myth is that diabetes is this punishment, right? A life sentence of just saying no to everything fun. But the reality, it's a condition that you manage. And with the right information and today's technology, life can be just as full, just as spontaneous as it was before. All right, so management sounds good, but what does that actually look like day to day? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle comes down to having the right tools for the job. And honestly, modern technology has completely changed the game for living with diabetes. It tackles some of those biggest fears head on.
So let's get back to Maya's two biggest worries, and I bet a lot of people can relate to these. First, there's the physical side, the pain and the pure hassle of pricking your finger over and over again to check your blood sugar. And then there's the mental load, that constant fear of messing up the insulin math, which can feel like you're in a high-stakes math class, like 24/7.
Okay, first up, the finger pricks. The modern answer to this is an absolute game changer. It's a little device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM for short.
So how does this thing even work? Well, it's a tiny little sensor that you wear, usually on your arm or your stomach. And it automatically checks your glucose levels every few minutes. And the best part? It beams all that information straight to your phone. So what you get is this constant stream of data without the constant pain of pricking your finger. It's incredible.
All right, so that's the finger prick sorted. But what about that scary math problem, the fear of getting the insulin dose wrong? Well, the answer isn't just guessing. It's a skill you can learn, and it's called carb counting.
And here's the thing you have to remember. This isn't some impossible math test. Carb counting is just a system. You learn how to look at a plate of food, figure out how many carbohydrates are in it, and then use that number to calculate the right amount of insulin. It turns all that anxiety into a task that's actually manageable and predictable. It's a science, and just like any skill, you get better and better at it with practice.
Okay, so we've got the tools. But now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because this isn't just about reacting to numbers on a screen. It's about proactively weaving diabetes care into a full, active, awesome life. You know, so many people, just like Maya, their first thought is, well, I guess I can't do sports anymore, or I have to stop being active. But the truth is, it's the exact opposite. Being active is actually one of the best things you can do to manage diabetes. It's not about stopping your life. It's just about learning how to fuel it the right way.
Really, it all boils down to this pretty simple but really powerful balancing act. I like to think of it as three pillars: food, insulin, and activity. First, you understand the food you're eating. Second, you match your insulin dose to that food. And third, you learn to make smart little adjustments for how active you are. When you get those three things in balance, you are in control.
And all of this, it leads to the biggest shift of all. And this one is all in your head. It's that mental journey from feeling like a passive patient, like someone this disease is just happening to becoming the person who is actively in charge of their own health.
This is maybe the most important thing to get. You're the one in the driver's seat. You are the CEO of your own body. Your doctor, your healthcare team, think of them as your expert consultants. They're your coaches, your supporters, but at the end of the day, you're the one making the daily calls. It's your life, your journey.
Which brings us all the way back to Maya. So after she learned about all these tools, all these strategies, her doctor asked her a question. He said, "What are you most excited to eat once you feel confident with all this?" And her answer, it just says everything. She looked him right in the eye and said, "Definitely that piece of cake." The very thing she thought was gone forever.
Wow, that journey, right? From normal is over to definitely that piece of cake, it's huge. It proves that a diagnosis isn't an ending. It's just a different kind of beginning. And that leaves us with a question to think about, no matter what challenges we're facing. If any tough new chapter is a journey, what's the very first step you can take to be the one in charge of